All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. One of the biggest questions right now in the crypto market is all this DeFi hype and altcoins that are popping off 2x, 5x, 10x returns, is this going to lead to ETH outperforming as well? Why hasn't it moved as much as some of these other coins? One of the things that I look at a lot are narratives. And in crypto, people joke that fundamentals don't matter or pumpamentals matter more or only the charts matter. I think one of the things that plays a massive role is narratives. It's very hard to value these things, and there's definitely not an agreed upon way to value Bitcoin or ETH, or especially any of these tokens. So what does matter are stories. And if you're saying that's ridiculous, listen to this. The reason that people buy into Bitcoin is that it's potentially a store of value, it's uncensorable, right? It's immutable. It's that digital gold. That's the story, that's the narrative, and that's what causes a lot of institutional investors or individuals to buy in. They need a story for why they should be buying. That story for ETH right now is that DeFi is going to take off. And it's going to be this platform where all the value lives, the infrastructure for a decentralized or an open finance system. So with that narrative being important and potentially playing a really large role for Ethereum, I was just a guest on this show. It's called Bankless State of the Nation. I suggest you guys go check it out. I have a little bit of a different video for you today. It's a clip from their show. If you want to see the full show, if you're into ETH, if you love ETH, go check them out. They cover ETH every single week and do an incredible job. The link is right down below for their full show. I'm just going to play you guys a clip. I was on their show talking about the narrative with ETH. It's so important because DeFi and a lot of altcoins are taking off. 2x, 10x returns. I mean, it's ridiculous right now. It's an exciting time in the market, but does this actually translate over to ETH doing well? For what it's worth, I am bullish ETH. But I also have to recognize that this narrative will probably take time to play out. It requires a lot more money to actually move ETH versus some of these smaller coins, the less liquid coins. And there's a lot up in the air, right? Does this continue to have legs for 6 months or a year? Right? Do investors have to invest in ETH if they can't get into DeFi projects, if they don't know how, if they can't diligence them, if they're not liquid enough? Right? I think all those things do benefit ETH. But so far, ETH hasn't moved as much as those other coins. This is a really fun discussion. We dive a little bit deeper into that narrative, why I'm bullish ETH, but why I think it just takes some time. Hope you guys enjoy the clip. Like I said, if you want to watch their show, link right down below. I highly suggest you do. Really enjoyed being on there. But I'm just sharing the clip of my segment on their show and talking with them. I really enjoyed it. I think you guys will too. I'll see you guys next time. I have a ton of videos coming out, some even later today. Smash the subscribe button. I'm talking about trades, themes, charts, and I don't want you guys to miss out. But for now, just enjoy this clip.
Thought we would bring him on to sort of weigh in on the subject. All right, so we brought Luke in. Luke, how are you doing today, sir? Welcome to State of the Nation.
I'm doing well, guys. Good to be here. I'm hungry as well. You guys are talking hunger. It's got me hungry for breakfast, but I know a lot of people are hungry for yield and everything else. So a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and you know what else they're hungry about is narratives, because that can be a key way to invest. I sort of gleaned this through my travels, but also through some commentary that I've heard you say on the subject. And I sort of think that there's kind of three approaches one might take to crypto. One is sort of a trader type approach, right, where you're looking at charts and you're trading. The second is a narrative investor approach, where you're looking at, hey, what's the next narrative we can front run, and then jumping on that. And the third is fundamentals, and some people, whatever fundamentals are in crypto, right? There's some room for debate there, but those are the three ways of thinking about crypto. So what are your thoughts on the narrative side of things? You think this, we see the success of DeFi, and that's pretty clear, and Ethereum sucking in all these assets, but we're not seeing ETH price rise. Is there a narrative here that exists and that we can front run, or do you think it's just not going to happen?
See, this is a really interesting one. Even you saying that the ETH price has not risen yet, it's just been a muted rise, especially when you compare it to how well some of these DeFi tokens have done, right? You look at Lend, you look at Thor, Comp, and all these coins that have gone up many multiples over the past few months. ETH does look like it hasn't risen, but if you go back to March, April, May, ETH was one of the only majors that was rising. Compare that to Tron or to Ripple or to EOS, which have all kind of steadily gone down until about a week ago. So I think we're just starting to see maybe a more mature ETH. It takes a lot more money to move an asset like ETH versus some of these smaller tokens, which are now getting some traction, right? I do think this DeFi narrative is a massive tailwind for ETH. I just think it's going to take maybe a little bit longer to get the kind of moves we're used to in the past.
And how do narratives like these usually work, Luke? When you see them, how do they kind of propagate? And what's the art to this, or what's the science in sort of predicting the next big thing?
I honestly focus a little bit less on predicting, and it's funny. We've had so many narratives. The narratives really never stop in crypto. Following the ICO boom, when all the tokens kind of first came out, when there was a token boom and new coins hitting the market 24/7, there was a massive focus on coins that could scale Ethereum. And even if a coin really wasn't focused on that, or if the project didn't have too much merit, if it branded itself as scaling Ethereum, people were rushing to buy that coin. And then we saw it with decentralized exchange coins. We've seen it kind of over and over again. We're seeing it right now with DeFi. And the funny thing is, you didn't even have to be early. I mean, I've made one of my first DeFi trades, I think probably 30 days ago or a month ago, and that's doing quite well. And I wasn't early at all, right? I was quite skeptical and kind of late to join on the train, but still doing okay. Momentum and trends just dominate here in crypto when there is, even if fundamentals do play a role, it's really hard to value how much the fundamentals should attribute to something's value. So narratives and momentum and the trend really kind of dominate what's happening.
And the thing about, go ahead, David.
How much do you think that this is the fact that so we have this, Ethereum's like this ecosystem, right? And it has the market cap of Ether, the asset, but then it also has the value of all the other assets on the platform, right? And so when all of these different DeFi tokens come into existence, like Comp did, and then smack their way into $1 billion valuation, or you have things like Lend, Aave's token, that does like a 30x over like 9 months or something. So the market cap of all the tokens on Ethereum grows. And so like part of the narrative, I think, is just the fact that ETH is just proximate to all of these things. And so like maybe in a more concrete way, like investors are speculating that the profits from all of these tokens are going to just cycle back into Ether. But is that a narrative, or is that actually something closer to fundamentals? And how does that impact your decisions?
I think you could tie that to either. I would say it's probably largely more a narrative, just because if DeFi is the narrative, right, is that DeFi is going to continue to compound, this infrastructure is going to last, more and more assets are going to continue to kind of be staked and be used in this infrastructure. That's the narrative. And the narrative is that ETH will take off because of that. I think you could also draw another relation and say, if you're a large asset manager, if you're a large investor, even a high net worth individual that wants to invest in some of these things, it's really hard to do, especially unless you're deep in understanding how these things work, you understand how wallets work, you can navigate a decentralized exchange. So really the only way to get exposure to some of these things is to try to invest in the platform they're running on, which is ETH. So I imagine there's a pretty big handful of people that see DeFi, see that that's bullish right now, see those tokens are doing well, and say, how do I get involved? I'm just going to buy ETH, anticipating that rises with this narrative growing.
I totally get your point earlier where you said, hey, look, the narrative actually is positively impacting ETH the price. It's not, it's appreciated relative to other layer one assets like, Tron or XRP or things like that. And I agree with that. That said, we haven't yet seen the parabolic growth in ETH like we saw in 2017. So when ETH's first use case kind of blew up, which was ICOs, which I think of as DeFi, right? This is permissionless DeFi fundraising, if you will, though we didn't call it that back then. ETH absolutely exploded in price, somewhat at the same time. Yet now we have DeFi assets kind of going parabolic and reaching almost similar levels of hype and
ridiculousness.
Yes, and ETH is not yet moving. So I guess my question is: do you think it's different this time? Do you think that there's some reason for that? Has the narrative just not sunk in enough, or are we looking at a dead narrative?
I think there's two key differences. I think the first one is with ICOs, you had to be buying ETH to participate, right? It was the reserve currency, and in order to participate in that ICO, you were buying ETH, you had to hold ETH to deploy it into the next ICO.
There weren't stable coins, right?
Sure. Well, there were, but there wasn't that much of a focus on them, and you definitely weren't depositing into the ICO with your stable coins. It was very rare if an ICO accepted a stable coin or Bitcoin. Very, very rare, right? Like maybe one or two that I can think of. So constantly having to buy ETH. And then even after you sold that coin, you would have to reload your ETH to continue participating in this ICO boom. That's just not happening. And I know that ETH does work with some of these infrastructures, work with these systems, but you don't have to touch ETH if you don't want to. I think that's one factor. I think the other factor is the hype is incredible with this DeFi thing. I think it's really the first meme and narrative that's taken a hold of the entire crypto space. Even if you're a Bitcoiner and you don't like what's happening, you still hear about this stuff 24/7. And that's new. So, but even kind of taking that into account, people outside of the crypto atmosphere, the crypto environment, I don't think they're as in tune with what's happening as they were with the ICO boom. I don't think it's reached kind of mainstream hype the same way that ICOs did, and partially maybe because it's harder to get involved. Like I said, it's a very steep learning curve if you want to get involved with lending or with yield farming or any of those things. Just to understand what's happening and then to actually deploy assets into them is a way bigger step than it was just with ICOs, one or two clicks. So I think those two things play a role, but maybe time kind of helps conquer both those.
Yeah, the nice thing with DeFi, of course, is that any asset can get involved. So if you are really excited about Bitcoin, the asset, you can start using Bitcoin on DeFi as WBTC or TBTC and some of these other derivatives. So I think, hopefully it will draw some more attention and draw some more interest. But back to this idea of it feels to me a potential narrative is this. For maybe institutions, maybe more classic investors who are like, I don't necessarily want to buy comp token because that's complicated. But I want some sort of proxy to the value appreciation of DeFi. And the meme of, ETH captures upside, like DeFi tokens are like the S&P 500 of Ethereum, and ETH captures the upside of that as the reserve asset of DeFi. It seems like that narrative, even if it's not, regardless of what you think of the fundamentals or how true the reality is, that narrative could take hold on even the institutional side, who can now, because ETH is a commodity, who can now start purchasing ETH in a fairly regulatory unburdened way. What would it take for a narrative like that to sort of sink into the institutional side of things and get more mainstream investors really excited?
I mean, I think it's already happening, right? And like you said, whether they can't invest in comp because it's too risky or they don't understand it, or ETH is just more liquid, right? For a lot of investors, Bitcoin and ETH are the only options because those are the most liquid options. So I think it's already taking hold. If a crypto investor wants to be involved in this DeFi thing and can't do it in such a granular level, and they want to be involved, they're probably choosing the ETH route, and it's probably going to continue as DeFi picks up steam. So I think that's only going to build on itself. There's also a couple other narratives that I think could really help. You see ADA right now doing quite well, and the staking and the yield farming is only going to continue to pick up steam as ETH 2.0 and staking and all these things kind of combine. They're really going to start to reinforce each other. So I think the narratives can kind of combine in a way as people continue to look for yield, as they get more comfortable finding assets that give yield in the crypto space. I think ETH is going to play a pretty big role in all those things.
One thing that's pretty interesting to me is that the ETH 2.0 hype definitely impacted the 2017 ETH price run up to like $1,400.
It's true.
And I think we're around the same, at least with what we understood in 2017, 2018, Ethereum 2.0 was like right around the corner. Like it was perhaps no more than 12 months away. And now that's roughly still the same projected timeline. But that means the hype of Ethereum 2.0 is theoretically right around the corner. So maybe we're kind of just waiting for these stars align with Ethereum 2.0 plus this whole new narrative ecosystem that we've been generating.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I remember when I first got into the space, that was early 2017, and I was reading about ETH 2.0 coming out. So who knows when it comes out? I'm sure Vitalik will, your next guest, will have a lot more to say about that than I have any insight there. But yeah, I think yield farming and staking, we've seen clearly that people are chasing that trend, and momentum tends to last here. I try not to fight trends here because fighting momentum in any asset class is tough. Fighting it in crypto is pretty brutal. So. Who knows? I think as long as the ball keeps rolling with DeFi, I think ETH is going to be a very nice benefactor of what's happening there.
So, Luke, you like yield farming, you like staking, you like DeFi. Any other narratives that we should be watching out for the folks that are tuning in and are interested in doing some narrative investing themselves?
I would say ETH is probably the most interesting. And I want to make a note. I find all those topics incredibly interesting, but I learn a lot from you guys and people like Tony Shang and Andrew Kang. I am trying to learn as much as I can. I don't participate in some of the yield farming and all that. It's still over my head, some of those things. But I absolutely love when a narrative like this does take hold, and we are starting to see ETH and other assets benefit from that, assets actually moving there. So I think that's going to be huge. I think another thing to watch is if Bitcoin and the S&P, if this correlation actually does break down, I think that's incredibly bullish. So it's going to be a fun time ahead, and watching how ETH develops through all this is top of my list of what I'm watching.
Luke, it's been awesome to have you. Thank you for taking the time for the Bankless Nation to share your thoughts on the narrative side of things. Luke, how can folks find you and learn more about what you're up to?
Definitely. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm most active on Twitter @VentureCoinist, or you can just search Luke Martin. I'll be one of the first ones to pop up, and on YouTube as well. But Twitter's where I'm most active.
Awesome. Luke, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed that short clip talking about ETH. Does this alt season, altcoins that are doing incredibly well, the market's hot, people are excited, does that actually translate to ETH seeing the type of rise we're used to? The 2017-2018 rise, where ETH went parabolic with other alts. I do think it's bullish ETH. I think DeFi is positive. I think a lot of investors are going to buy ETH to get in on the DeFi trade. I think it's all quite bullish. I'm just not sure it leads to the type of rise we had in 2017. But comment your thoughts down below. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Are there more than 50% of you that think ETH will? Are there less? How do you think ETH plays out, or just any other token that you're quite excited about? And one more thing before I go. There's been a lot of interest lately with staking, yield farming, earning interest on your coins. That's what it all boils down to. And Crypto.com sponsors these daily videos so that I can bring you the freshest trends, news, updates. Download their app right down below. You even get $50 free in crypto. Just download the app, sign up with your name. It's really simple. And they offer staking on their app. You can earn interest by holding some coins in your wallet right there on Crypto.com. So you get 50 free bucks and you get a nice little bonus. It's one of the easiest ways to earn interest on your coins. That's all I got. I'm going to keep bringing you the news. Be sure to subscribe. I got a lot of good stuff on the way. I'll see you guys next time.